Hey everyone! Thank you for joining us for the Microsoft Fabric FabCon Global Hackathon. My name is Anna. I'll be your producer for this session. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you so much for joining.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today into this session. As you know, we are running these sessions for the hackathon about Fabric. And today, well, I introduce myself. I'm Ismael. I'm part of the DevRel team at Microsoft. I work in most things data. And I'm really happy to be joined today by Virginia. Virginia, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Virginia Roman. I'm a product manager at Microsoft.
Yeah. And Virginia is one of the PMs who's working on these AI features, and she's going to present that part soon. So well, let's get started first, talking a little bit about this series. If you are joining for the first time, you may learn today that there is this ongoing series with different live streams that teach you parts about Fabric, so you can create a solution for this FabCon hack contest. And so far, if you assisted to the previous version, you learn about OneLake and how to bring all your data into OneLake, about real-time intelligence and solutions around that, and of course about Fabric databases in the previous session that was 3 days ago. And today we are going to focus mostly into the AI part and the AI features in Fabric. Of course, there are a lot of them. We will not cover everything, but we give you some ideas for that. And what is expected after this session? Well, there will be one more session that will present how to prepare your project and how to submit it. And remember, the deadline for the projects is in November 3. So we have mostly a month. So I think it's a good time to get it done. So let's continue there. And just as a reminder, to participate, you have to register yourself in this URL. Then there is this skilling plan that you have to follow. There's like Microsoft Learn courses that you do step by step, and you learn the skills that you may need to create your project. And then, there is the submission of your project. I remember again, this is for the November 3rd, no? The date of submission. And there are like different criteria to be judged for the solution. So one of the things is does it fit one of the categories that I'm going to quickly introduce afterwards? Is this solution is relevant, is interesting? Of course, we want solutions that are interesting, as we have done in previous versions of this contest. Also, can we reproduce this? Is well documented? If you want to make things easy, the best thing you can do, apart of having the solution in GitHub, is also to create a video that introduces the solution and presents how especially you use Fabric plus AI, which is the main focus of this session. For that we have prizes. Of course, if you create the best AI application that uses any of the AI capabilities that we are going to introduce today, and others, we don't know. I mean, you may take other parts of Azure also to create this. You can get this prize. And you will be mentioned in the Microsoft blog with the winners. If you want to do a more like an analytic solution and focus more into the databases part, there is also a prize for that. So you can apply any of these techniques, and you can also introduce other things like data factory or other parts of Fabric. So again, this is a second category. And the biggest prize, covers a little bit of all. It's like the most interesting solution that obviously we want you to use some innovative use of AI to solve one of the problems. And we had something like that 2 years ago, I think, with someone who created a use of data quality using as a project, and that was pretty neat. Okay, so probably if you are here, I assume you know Fabric, but just a quick reminder, this is the unified data platform of Microsoft. And we have things like data factory, analytics, and we have the analytics, that is the data engineering and data studies part, and databases, real-time intelligence, and Power BI. It's all nicely packaged and ready to be used. And since this is nicely packaged, well, we mentioned that we have like a common layer that is this OneLake storage system, but we also have a common layer of AI in our product. And some people, well, have been saying this for a while, that data is the fuel of AI. And well, obviously preparing our data and getting it ready is something that we should do to be able to use all these AI experiences. But today we are going to learn also that AI is the new engine of data, which means that you have tools that are AI-created tools that you can use to enrich your data, to make it more clear, and we are going to discuss that with things like AI functions today. So yeah, it's a duality here that is interesting. And well, this is more or less the agenda for today. We're going to cover 3 areas. The first one is our Copilot experiences at Microsoft, is how we use generative AI to make your life easier as a data engineer or as a person trying to analyze data or get insights from your data. The second part is how can you build data agents to chat with your data. This is something that most people require. Like we want to expose the data of our data warehouse or lakehouse into other users, and the common way to do that was to share this through SQL and create some application on top of that or some report. But with the new generative AI solutions, well, you can use natural language and chat with your data. We are going to show that also. And finally, well, we are going to discuss how you can use AI to transform and enrich your data. So you can use AI-based functions to do some transformations and make your data richer or cleaner. So that's more or less the agenda. So let's get started with this Copilot accelerated experiences. And what I want to mention is that Fabric has this Copilot in any of their workloads. So you can go to Data Factory and use natural language to create the transformations, the ETL transformation that you do for your data. You can go to Data Warehouse, same story, you write natural language and you create SQL queries. Data science, you can create Python notebooks, and it can help you to for example, to translate from one, for example, from some library to a different library. We will show also that later on. And you can use real-time intelligence also. This uses a different query language internally that is called Custo, KQL. So it's not only natural language to SQL what we are supporting. We are supporting natural language to whatever experience you do with Fabric. And of course, Power BI is also one of those. So if you want to create a report, you can give the instructions in natural language and you can get the results. So yeah, most on that. And well, some people tried this Copilot in the past, and they were a little bit frustrated because we required a lot of capacity to do that, especially in the beginning. So we were asking for a F64 capacity to be able to run this, but this requirement does not exist anymore. Now this experience is now mostly available to all customers. You only need a F2, and then you can do all these things. So this is perfect for this hackathon because, well, everybody can play with it. And of course, we are going to talk about how to chat with your data by combining Power BI and Fabric. And this is, probably we will just check out that. But the main idea here is that we want to enable users, and in this time, it's users who we can call as business users or people who are less familiar with SQL and these data engineering experiences, to be able to access the data, to understand the reports, and even to create the reports. I mean, if you have to use Power BI, you have to know a little bit of things. You have to know how to set up a visualization, how to connect the data sources, or maybe how to create a semantic model. All these things, well, not everybody that is not a data analyst know. And if you can ask, for example, some legal expert in your company and wants to come to access the data, well, it probably won't figure out how to do it in the past, but right now it's probably easier because, well, this person can ask, oh, create me a report that shows this and that, as we are going to show. So this is somehow a way to democratize data. So this is what we intend to do with these AI Copilot solutions. And we have, let's say, 2 Copilots in that we can discuss in Power BI. One is this general Copilot that is like a big chat that addresses all the sources, all the reports, all the semantic models, We are not covering that one today, but I just want to mention it. And this is that the idea of this is to lay the foundation so we can create agents on top of that. Like we are going to, the good part is that you can access everything you have inside of Fabric in your workspace and chat with it. So it's like a mix in the sense of multiple experiences case. Okay, so now let's go for the first demo. So we are going to go with Copilot. Now is when I cross the fingers for the demo gods to help me. Here we have this is Fabric for those of you who are not familiar. This on the left side, we have the view, we have this view on the left side that is basically all the operations we can do with Fabric in the left pane, the artifacts we have accessible, and we are in this workspace. A workspace in Fabric is, let's say, you can imagine that as a project when you have many things inside. And in this one, I prepared in advance a lakehouse that has some data. I created a notebook to import the data, and I created mirroring of a catalog that is outside of my organization. It's something that is in Databricks, and I'm cloning this data inside of my lakehouse. I put all of this together in this lakehouse. So let's take a quick look at this. It's going to take a little bit. Okay, so these are the list of the tables that we have, and let's open. And let's see if we can, oops. Now we're going to, okay, you can check that the different columns of the table are in the right place. And you can also, of course, you can check the data. That is what it's doing here. So here we can see the table. This is for campaign promotion data. Well, just nothing abnormal here. It's just data that we can create. But what we want to show is this data inside of Power BI. Let's check out a different table, this website bounce rate table, because we want to analyze why people are not staying in our website. And we have these insights. We have, for example, well, the generation of the customer, if it's Gen Z or millennials, and how they feel about the product they are seeing. Sometimes they are looking at laptops. So we have these criteria that is called the website bounce rate that tell us how let's say, how much time people spend in the website. So we want to do a report on that. So to create this report, the first thing we are going to do is to create a semantic model. That is the usual thing in Power BI. So we click here in New Semantic Model, and we are going to choose the table. So we have to give it a name. So let's call it website. Let's call it bounce rate so that we don't get confused. Oh, that is semantic model. Okay, so we have this. Now we have to choose the table or the set of tables for this. Let's say we just take one table to make things easier. And we confirm. This will take a little bit of time. And once we create the semantic model, the next step is to create a report on top of that. And that's where we are going to use a little bit of Copilot. I'm going to, for a second, switch here to see my notes. Oh, I forgot to mention something, and this is important. Okay, I'm going back for a second to a different place. Well, let's wait until this opens, so don't get confused. But I forgot, and this is important to keep in mind, is that we need to enable a feature to be able to chat with your data on Power BI. So this is, okay, this is the semantic model. Let's not forget about it. But let's go back for a second to the lakehouse where we were before. And then we have these settings here. And that's where we want to go to the settings part and choose Power BI settings, because this is key to be able to use what we are going to do. You go to semantic models, and you have to enable in this Q&A section, you have to enable turn on Q&A to ask natural language questions about your data. This is important, so let's not forget that. I wonder if my semantic model will work now because I created it before, but we are going to try that, so hopefully it will. Okay, so we're in the semantic model. Now we want to create a report based on this. We're going to do File, Create New Report. And well, it opened a new window. Okay, and here we are in this new window. And you can see this is, again, the typical Power BI view. You have this place when you put the visuals of your data, the visualization, you have filters, and you have your data. So here we already have the semantic model because it was chosen automatically. but we don't have the Copilot anywhere. And why? Because this is enabled here. You have this Copilot button, and then you will have the Copilot here. You can start talking with your data. With your data model, let's say the semantic model, and then create a report. There is, as you can see, it's pretty busy, so I'm going to reduce a little bit those for the moment. Maybe just the filters, and so we can see this. One thing we can do once we are there is, okay, can you explain me the data? So I'm going to ask, what's in my data? And it explains a little bit. Yes, your semantic model contains data. Okay, so that's one point of what I wanted to do. Maybe I want to ask a question about the data. So maybe, well, I'm going to go back here just to copy one thing, so I don't have to type all of that. So let's ask him, please create me a detailed page, to analyze the website bounce rate. We will see what it does. This is a new page in the report. Now, remember that reports have pages. And as you can see, it generated a first report based on our data, which is pretty good. As you can see, we have this categorization of the custom generation shows us that the bounce rate is pretty high for millennials. So millennials. So there is something going on with this. As you can notice, I didn't have to do anything. I barely know, and it's true. I mean, I'm not an expert in Power BI, but this is a really quick way to do a first step. So you don't. If you not only if you don't know it, but if you are, let's say, poor on ideas, maybe you can kickstart things with this, and then you start to clean things on your own on using the Copilot. No? So that's one thing. Now there is another interesting use of Copilot, and is that now we have this visualization for narratives. And what is a narrative? When you get a report like this with no data and no information, you get lost. Maybe we can create a narrative to explain this report. And in that case, what is pretty cool is we can use the AI, so we can use Copilot again. But now in this case, well, we are going to ask Copilot to summarize the data and provide other insights. So let me just copy this again. So summarize the data, provide an executive summary indicating important takeaways. So let's do that. And then the AI is going to generate a textual explanation of this report. So whatever is in this report is going to be now put in this element, and we can put it, for example, in the site. If somebody is going to read this report for the first time, well, this will be a quite indicative way to understand the data. And as you see, again, millennials shows the highest bounce rate. But even if you and again, we're trying to understand these things, but we still count with not only Copilot for this data, but Copilot in general. So I can ask, for example, what is bounce rate? Because I don't have a clue what is this. Imagine I'm reading this for the first time, and well, it will still be able to go with the knowledge of the large language model and explain me. Bounce rate is a metric that measures the percentage of website visitors who leave the site after viewing only one page. So as you can see, well, it's what we're trying to tackle. And I can even go further, and ask this Copilot, hey, can you please, based on the data in the page, can you suggest me something to improve the bounce rate of millennials? And we will have an answer. Again, this is a mix of the data, the context we gave with the data, and the knowledge that it has because it knows the intelligence of the LLM. So, and then we have the explanation. It says, okay, millennials have this highest range, and then it gives explanation. Maybe the device type, maybe we should put, so it gives recommendation. And of course, this kind of thing gives us like a way to start faster, but remember that this is AI. You should always double check things, because it could be hallucinating. So don't forget to double check things that the numbers correspond and all of this. But so far it seems some of the numbers seem good, like this bounce rate on 0.51 at least correspond to this one. So again, this is our way to check. But you see, and here we have 0.59 and here we have 0.51. So there may be something going on, but well, those are the things you have to clean and fix, let's say. Okay, so that's for the Copilot demo, Power BI and Copilot demo. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so this is the second of our AI-powered experiences is the ability to chat with your data. And well, what do we mean with that? We have this concept called data agent. This is a new item on Fabric. You can create a new, let's say, Copilot or agent based only on the data you want to share. So you choose your data, you go to your lakehouse, you choose the tables, and then you can talk with your data as queries, and it will generate depending on the tables you choose, SQL or DAX queries or whatever it needs to get the answer to the question. And it's like having a data expert on your side. And again, this is again going in the direction of the democratization of your data. But not only that, with this also you can share that agent, well, with other tools, and we will see a little bit of that. Okay, so how does this work? This data agent, as I mentioned before, has access to our lakehouse, to all the data that we have in Fabric, the data warehouse, the semantic models, and all of these things are stored in OneLake. And then you can filter those and share them, create a conversational agent that you will, let's say, somehow configure. And then you can publish that in different places. So you can publish it in not only, I mean, you can publish not only in Fabric, so Fabric users can use it, but also go to Azure AI Foundry, for example, and create a more advanced agent that uses this agent as a knowledge source. And you can also even do it in Copilot Studio. You can publish this agent in Teams. There are a lot of things that you can do with this data agent. So we are going to show that also. And to understand how things work, let's say there's like a life cycle of data agents. So the first part is just create the data agent so we can track access to data, lineage, all of these things, permissions. And then we add a data source. So it can be a lakehouse, a warehouse, a semantic model, all sorts of things. Even also mirror databases also are accessible. You select the tables you want and no more. Remember, we have to have control on our data. And well, this agent, of course, since this is creating context for the AI, well, the less you choose, the better probably. So if you have 1,000 tables, probably it's going to be a struggle. But if you select a smaller group, it's going to be better. And then is the configuration part. And since we are creating an agent, we have to give it the agent instructions, like what is your prompt. Let's say your system prompt is what we call instructions here, and we can somehow also fine-tune some queries that we know, like explaining to the agent, oh, if somebody asks what is the cost of this, maybe we know the answer in advance, and maybe just take this query, so we can give a more accurate answer every time. Once we have done all of this, we have improved our prompt, we have checked, and why we have to do this? And this is an important question. Why we have to improve this? Because sometimes our data models have crazy names, like I don't know, it's the table, the value of the product is called VL or something, and the model cannot figure out that, but we can tell him, oh, if it is VL, well, this is value, it's all those sort of things, because databases conventions sometimes are weird. So the idea is to help the model to understand our data. And finally, once we iterated on that, and this can take a little bit of time, well, we publish this agent, and it's accessible by all the consumers of the agent that I mentioned before, all these other systems like Fabric, Copilot Studio, or others, And even it will be as a REST endpoint, so you can integrate it on your own afterwards. This is a little bit how it works. I think I'm going to a little bit show this, but we'll go to the demos. Probably it's going to be more clear. We have in the left side, we have the sources. We have the query we did, and with this query, we have the associated result and the code that was generated for that. So this is the SQL code, for example, for this question. List the top 3 areas where most crime happens. So it creates a SQL query that we can validate, and we can see the results. Of course, and then this is a good reminder again that we need to validate that these things produce like logical results. I mean, this is AI, but this is not perfect. So this is giving us a way to do things faster, but we always have to check. And on the right side, we have these AI instructions. You can give instructions to your agent. As I said, like you can give it a context of how to work. Like, oh, you are a sales agent. Don't answer this sort of questions, etc. You can fix that. And then we have, and this is different. We have these data source instructions when it explains, oh, in case the data is the, like example, if they are asking for revenue, well, the corresponding table is this one, because they may be 2 or 3 tables that have that data, but to make things easier for questions, maybe we have to, let's say, hint the AI the best data source to use. Okay, so that's for it. Let's go with the second demo. Okay, we are going to go here. Okay, so I'm back in my Fabric workspace. Let's go back to the top part. And once we are here, we have the view of the things we created, the semantic model we created, and all the tables I explained, all the items, sorry, I explained before. We are going to create a new item. And this item is going to be a data agent. And as you can see, we have this. This is in preview. So some things can change. And I just find something that looks different from the previous slide. We're going to create this agent first. Let's call this sales agent, sales data agent. That's a good name. Okay. I'm just going to give it a name. Okay. And then it asked, okay, we need now data to expose to our agent. It goes to select one of the data catalogs we have in Fabric. And remember, data catalogs in Fabric are not only our lakehouse. It can be a semantic model. It can be a mirrored catalog from a different experience. But we are going to go with this catalog model, the lakehouse one. It's already integrated. We integrated the data. Okay, and then we have the tables that we are going to use. Just give me a second. I'm going to prepare some query here. So we are going to select, maybe for this case, we are going to select all the tables, and we will see how this goes. And notice that you can select only at the table level. You cannot select at the column level. For example, if you want to hide this thing, you have to configure that in advance in the tables. Okay, so we have all the tables are selected, and I'm going to ask a question. My question is, what is the most sold product? We will see that. See if it is able to produce an answer. In the meantime, I'm going to look for something else. Okay, so it says the most sold product is this one, and then it shows how it did to create this answer. It says I analyzed this lake house and I tried to identify this, and it shows the query. As you can see, well, it's showing the quantity of orders, and I don't know if that's the right answer. So we can tell the agent to maybe improve that answer by giving the context. No, so we can go to this agent instructions, or we can go here to setup. And we go in this setup part, so you can configure the instructions for the agent. So we're going to do that maybe in here. Okay. And oops, what is this thing? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we have the new instructions. If somebody asks for most sold products, well, maybe what you should do is this. Now I'm wondering if this should be here or maybe in the data source instructions. Remember, this is data. This is just to explain the data. So maybe let's put it here. We will see if it works. Okay, so I go back to data. I go back to my agent. The agent is in the site, as you can see, since the configurations are here. And we're going to repeat the same question probably. Let's go to this to see if the answer changed just because of the instructions that my agent has. Let's do this a little bit smaller. Okay, it didn't change. I probably that's what I was playing with, put it in the wrong side. Let's go back here and we will see if it works. Okay, and I'm going to close this to be sure it's recorded, because that's another thing I was not sure. Okay, so I'm going to ask the same question again. Hopefully it will change the answer because of the context. We will see. Okay, so now we have a different answer, and it probably is because I put the context in the wrong place in the agent instructions now, and then now it figured out that it has to use a different table because that's what we told in the instructions. Just go back for a second just to show that we are telling him, hey, pay attention at these fact tables, to produce the answer. So as you can see, the answer changed. Okay, so that was a first step. Another thing we can do, and that I mentioned before, is that you may want to give hints about the answers that you know in advance. So, for example, if you know that a common question of the users can be answered, has an easy to answer question, like let's say the one common question is, sorry, in these queries, one common question is this one, is how much revenue are we losing from leaving customers versus those who are staying? Well, I know this question can be answered by the SQL query that I can write here. So I'm going to take this query from my notes on the side. And I'm going to put it here. You can see that there is an SQL error message here. This is because I didn't put the SQL query. But in this step, always the SQL part is validated. Why this? Well, because we cannot produce invalid queries to answer a question. So let's see if it works. Okay, there we are. So let's take a little this question again. I'm going to close this to be sure that everything is recorded. Close everything. Okay. And then I'm going to ask that question here. And now, since this, well, I asked the exact same question, but this uses similarity search. So if somebody asks a similar question, it will have it will approximate to the text that we pushed as a hint for the SQL query. Well, we can check here that it should be using a query that uses this round sum cases that we had in the SQL. I'm just going back to show the example query just to so you realize that this is this round sum case. You see, it really found the same query. So okay, that's good for this. I think okay. So that was iterating. That was preparing the instruction, giving examples for this, defining the results. The last step is to publish the data. So we just click on publish. We give an explanation, and we click publish, and then the data agent will be accessible. How it will be accessible? Also, we take a look at this publishing details. Sorry, I have this URL that I'm going to save on the side or something after. Okay, and then with this URL, we can configure another agent, or you can access from outside of Fabric and ask queries to this agent and have answers from that. So yeah, okay. So let's go back to the slides. I'm gonna go a little bit faster now because I'm a little bit late from my time, I see. These things that we configured, you know, the agent instructions. What we want to specify is which data sources to route to a specific question. That was my mistake when I put it in the wrong place. And data source instruction is to bring clarity about each source. So the example I said before, if the field is called VL and not value, you do it in this step. And finally, well, the example queries are the things that you know in advance. You can, if you know instructions in advance that can be answered by a query, like a SQL query, or some analysis that you know in advance, you can help the AI to give the result in a more clean way. Okay, so a part of this, well, once we publish this, you can access this with different tools. There is also this data agents SDK. So you can use this to invoke one data agent that you created inside of Fabric notebooks. That's another, let's say, client or consumer of the Fabric data agent. And you can, why you want to do this? Because you may want to configure this to automate and test your agents. So this is a big part that we are not going to cover today, but you can find documentation about that in the website. We will share the links. And the idea is that we want to evaluate that our data agents are robust, of course. And this data agent evaluation, well, you can do it with this SDK. And you are trying to let's say, improve the accuracy is the biggest problem when we do these chat systems with natural language. We always want to improve the accuracy of the results before we publish them to production. And well, we can do that, as I mentioned, by tuning all these prompts and going back and forth. And the idea is that you automate how to measure that. But well, this is a little bit going too deep into the details for today. So as I mentioned, we have all the steps that we already did. We created the agent, we selected the data source, we configured the instructions and the example queries, we publish it, and now we want to consume it. One of the ways we can consume it is by going to a different system and trying to do it. I don't know if this is going to work, because when I tried this early on today, this failed, but let's give it a try. We have, as so far, we did create this customer churn data. We take it into the lakehouse. We created a Fabric data agent. And now I'm going to go to AI Foundry and see if I can read that data. We will see. Let's cross fingers. For those of you who are not familiar with Azure AI Foundry, this is a good time to mention this. This is Microsoft solution for AI. This is our equivalent of Fabric, but for AI. The platform, the big platform that covers all your uses of AI. And why I mention this? Because AI Foundry has more advanced tools to do other stuff. Like if you want to integrate your agent with different LLMs, foundational models, well, you can do it here. In Fabric, let's say you cannot choose that. It's done automatically for you. It's like more serverless. Here you have more control. You can, of course, choose open source models, but not only that, you can also create agents inside of the system. That's what we're going to do. And you can even integrate your own data machine learning models if you have some of those from Azure ML. But the most important thing is the observability part. And this is something that we don't have on the Fabric side. That you can analyze how is your agent is behaving in detail, more advanced detail than on Fabric, because in Fabric is what we are achieving is a user-friendly experience. Oh my God, I have low battery on my microphone. Okay, so let's when you do this in AI Foundry, you configure knowledge, you configure possible knowledge are like agents that you can access. Actions are like things you can do, like like tools, let's say, you can access from these actions. And of course, you have security that is you can configure in the tool, but we don't go deep into that. Let's move a little bit quicker because I took a lot of time. Okay, so let's go back here. We have, this is the Azure AI Foundry interface. As you can see in the left panel, we have all sorts of things you can do. You can fine-tune models, you can deploy models from the model catalog, and you can create your own agents. So let's create a new agent. And this is the agent that we are creating. Let's give it a better name. Let's say Agent Foundry. Okay. We take this GPT-4o model. We don't have to deploy anything else. It was already deployed. And we have to give some instructions to this agent. And this is something I'm going to do right now if I find the instructions in my notes. And here we are. Okay. And then, okay, we have the instructions. And now we have to configure the agent to have some data sources of knowledge, let's say. And these data sources of knowledge in this case are other agents. And this other agent we are going to add here is the Microsoft Fabric agent we created on the other side. So we configure this, and this is the agent we just published. And it's not this one. We are going to create a new connection. And do you remember when we published the agent that I saved the URL somewhere because I said, oh, I need this data afterwards? Trying to get that data here. I'm gonna put it here. I'm going to open a new tab for this. Oops, a new tab here. Okay, and then you can see this URL has two parts. This part is part of the identification. Let me see if I can get there. Okay, this is the workspace ID, and this part that is here is the agent ID. Sorry if this is not more smooth, but well, this is in preview, so we're going to improve that, hopefully. Let's take a look at this. Okay, I have a problem here. And then there we are. We will see if it connects. That's the issue I had today because it was not connecting. I'm going to put a name and Fabric data agent. Okay. Okay, we're going to connect. Hey, it works. Okay, so hopefully it will work. Now, once our sales agent that we are creating on Fabric can talk with the data agent. Our sales agent that we create in AI Foundry can talk with the data agent that we created in Fabric. So we have a specialized data agent that is going to help the other agent. Now, we are going to add an action, and in this case, the action is going to be a code interpreter that is, let's say, like an environment that can run code for you. Let's say it's a little small, you can imagine like Python environment or something like that you can use to run things. So let's save this thing. And then we have our agent is configured. Oops, I forgot to close this. Now we're going to try. So we have this try in playground button here. We are going to see if it works. Give me a second. Okay. So let's again, this is a chat experience. We can ask a question. Let's say, what are the top 5 selling products by total revenue? And our agent, what it's going to do is figure out which agents are configured, and he knows now that it has the fabric knowledge from the fabric agent. And then it's going to try to figure the data out. Let's see if it works, hopefully. Oh, no, that's what it was failing. Okay, well, but that's probably the issue I had before. But that's how you integrate both agents. So I'm going to try to give the question. Okay, I'm going to do something that sometimes will work, and I don't know if it will work again. We are going to create a new thread. Let's save that question again. We're going to create a new thread, and let's go here and ask the same question again. Let's hide this. If it doesn't work, well, I'm going to give up because we still have to continue with the rest, and I'm a little bit late. So let's see if it works. In the meantime, I'm going to take some data. Because I was having a connection issue before, and this time I was surprised it even worked. No, there is some issue with the connection. I'm sorry for that. But well, I just wanted to show how this integrates in a different system. But well, you saw the agent in Fabric is pretty solid. So let's go back to the slides. So now we are going to go with the last part of the experience. This is how to use AI to transform and enrich your data. So now I let you, Virginia, present this.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm going to show you how you can use AI functions to transform and enrich your data in Fabric. So to start, what are AI functions? In the next slide, AI functions are single-line operations that perform these high-level intelligence tasks by applying large language models to your rows of data. So for example, if you have rows of text, you can call AI.summarize and get a summary for each corresponding row. And in the next slide, we can see all the different functions that are available out of the box today. Most of these are pretty intuitive. So we have summarize, translate, extract. This one allows you to pull information from your data based on any entities that you set. You can classify your data, so categorize it based on your custom categories, analyze sentiment to determine the emotion behind the text input, fix grammar, and similarity, where you can compute a similarity score with another text value or with another column for each corresponding row. And lastly, we have AI.generate response, which is a function in which you can write your own custom prompt for any specific use case that you have. So now let's jump over to Fabric so we can see what these look like in action. So I have my Fabric notebook open, and to get started, I have run these 2 code cells to install the prerequisites. So I've installed OpenAI and I've imported the requirements, so I'm ready to get started. So let's say that I've collected a bunch of product reviews for my company and I want to do some analysis for them. I'm going to create a data frame with all of these different reviews and displaying it so I can see what we're working with, and I have a data frame here, one column called review with all the different reviews. And the reviews are not formatted in any way. And to save myself time from having to read each one individually or do a ton of processing to get the data that I want, I'm just going to run the extract function. That way I can pull out the product, price, and rating from each review, and I can have the data that I'm really looking for. So once this function runs, I can see this new data frame that I've created where it's pulled out the product type, the price, and the rating from each string in my rows of data. So next, I want to analyze the sentiment to see how the customers are feeling about all the different products. So I'm going to call the AI.analyze sentiment function on the review column, and I can see that for the first review that said totally worth it, the sound is crystal clear, that marked it as a positive review. For one where the user thought it was a ripoff and had poor performance, it was evaluated as negative. This one says it has great sound, but not so good noise cancellation, so it evaluated as a mixed review. And the last one, that called the TV pretty standard, it was marked as a neutral review. And now I want to make sure that I can provide really good customer service. So I want to respond to every single person that left a review. Now, I don't have time to do that personally, but I can run an AI.generate response function where I can put in my own prompt to write a reply for each review. And I can see that it created a new response column with a personalized response that's relevant to the review that was left. So for the positive review, it says, thank you for your fantastic review. We're thrilled to hear that you're enjoying the product. For a more negative one, it says, we're sorry about the experience. We appreciate your feedback, and so on. So now we want to show you how you can use AI functions in Data Wrangler. And if you're not familiar with Data Wrangler, it's this immersive interface within Fabric Notebooks that allows you to prepare your data in a more visual way. So I highly recommend you check it out. And for this example, we're going to create a new data frame, and I'm going to read from a bank statement CSV file.
I have one question in the meantime while this runs.
Go
Are
ahead.
these functions inside calling Copilot, like some LLM, all of those, or is like a specific model, or is general? I don't know, just curiosity.
Yes, so these functions are calling large language models. So by default, we're using Azure OpenAI, and the default model right now is GPT 4.0 mini or 4.0 mini, and you can customize to change the model to another supported model, and you can bring your own Azure LLM resource as well. So I have the new data frame that was created, and you can open Data Wrangler either from the ribbon or from right here. And usually when I'm in Data Wrangler, I like to collapse some of the extra panes so I can have my preview window a lot larger. And I can see there's a warning message that lets me know that my Spark data frame has been converted to pandas for performance. But once I'm finished with my code, I can then convert it to PySpark. So I'm going to close this out for now and just keep that in mind. And I can see in the left pane, I have operations, and I can select AI enrichments. And these are all the same functions that we were reviewing earlier. So in this example, I'm going to categorize the different purchases. So I'm going to select the description column as a target column, and I'm going to write for the categories. I want to categorize the purchases as either luxury, necessity, or discretionary purchases. And I'm going to name my column name type. And then I'm going to run the preview to see what this would look like. So I can see the new column that was created. Let's check out how it did for some of these. So for a medical purchase, it classified it as necessity. For a spa treatment as luxury. For a Netflix subscription as discretionary, and so on. So I can also see down here the code that was written, and I can see that the AI.classify function was called. I'm going to hit apply, and the new column will persist here in my preview window. And now let's say that I want to flag any purchases that maybe are suspicious activity. So that's a more custom scenario, and I'm going to use the custom prompt option. My new column name, I'm going to name it alert, and I'm going to write a prompt that says if the transaction is highly unusual, output suspicious activity, otherwise, or in a short description, otherwise none. So let's check out the results, I can see most of these are none. They don't have an alert, but an example of a suspicious activity, this one says unusually high amount spent on gas. And I can see this is a Shell purchase and it has $2,000. So I can agree that that's unusual. I'm going to hit apply to keep this new column. And I can also do other operations backed by AI that are outside of these AI functions in Data Wrangler. So some examples are the AI or the smart suggestions that are custom to my data frame in particular. So for example, it suggests to split my datetime column into two different ones. So I can go ahead and accept these changes. And another option I have is I can ask Copilot in natural language I can describe the transaction that I want, and it can create the code to execute the right operation. So in this example, I'm going to ask for a new balance column that keeps track of the total amounts. So I'm going to run the preview on that and scroll to the right. I can see the new balance column. When I look at the amount, the balance column keeps track of the sum of all the amounts. So I'm going to hit apply on that. And now that I'm done modifying or transforming and preparing my data, I'm ready to save this code back to my notebook. And as you can remember from when I opened Data Wrangler, the data frame was converted to pandas for performance. So now when I click on Add Code to Notebook, it will automatically translate it to PySpark using AI. So I'm going to hit Add, and all of the code executed to make these changes in Data Wrangler is now in my notebook in PySpark. So lastly, if we go back to the presentation, we wanted to share a sneak peek of something that's coming next. So we are enabling multimodal support for AI functions so that you can bring your unstructured data in different file formats and apply AI functions on top of them. So for example, in the next slide, you could extract entities from across different documents, such as the company name. And now we're going to show you a demo of how you will be able to load PDFs into a data frame once this capability is available.
AI functions are becoming a lot more powerful with unstructured data support. Imagine you work in the recruiting department of your company. Every week, dozens or even hundreds of resumes land in your inbox. They're in PDFs and in all different kinds of styles and formatting. To figure out which ones are good candidates, you normally have to open each one, skim through pages of text, or do a lot of processing to try to standardize the data. Instead, you can use Fabric AI functions to automate this process and reduce it to just a couple of steps. In a Fabric notebook, I connected a lakehouse that has a resume folder with all the PDF resumes. I copy the folder path, and then I use the Load AI function. This will create a data frame with one file per row, and based on the content of the documents, it automatically determines the column names that this data frame should have. For example, name, contact information, experience, and more. But I want to try to reduce some of the bias in the recruiting process and not look at things like location, education, or some of the other fields. I'm mainly interested in evaluating the candidates based on their experience. So I'll run the same function again, but this time I'll give it a prompt to specify that I just want the name, title, and experience from each resume. My new data frame has all the columns I'm interested in. The professional experience is still a lot to go through, and I don't have time to do this manually. So I'll use an AI function to evaluate the candidates. I'll create a qualification column in the data frame, and I'll call AI.generateResponse. With this function, I can give it any prompt I want. So I'll ask it to evaluate each candidate based on the job description. First, I want it to reason through the candidate's experience compared to the job requirements, then provide an assessment that rates the job fit as strong, moderate, or weak, and a brief explanation why. So I paste in the job description for an accountant role and run the function. I now see the qualification column, and it has the output exactly how I wanted it. Let's look into some of these. A candidate that was marked as a strong fit has 6 years of relevant experience and demonstrated proficiency in the required processes. For a candidate marked as a weak fit, it looks like their experience is in data analysis rather than accounting. Now let's check out a moderate one. It looks like they do have relevant experience, but had no mention of bookkeeping and tax preparation skills, which are some core requirements. As you can see, with AI functions, I was able to take an entire folder of PDF resumes, structure the data, and identify the top candidates in just a couple of steps. How do you plan on using AI functions?
Okay, thank you. And going back to the presentation, we just have some final things to share. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and hopefully you found some of this content useful. Please check out these sources to learn more about Power BI Copilot, the Fabric Data Agent, and AI functions. We have these short links, aka DataMS links down here, that you can go to see the documentation, more examples, and to learn more.
Yeah, and I also want to go back also to the competition, let's say, the skilling and hackathon that we are running. So to remind everyone about this, well, remember you have to complete the skilling path to be able to participate. There is a link for this. Obviously, if you have questions, don't hesitate to join our Discord. Me and my team will be around answering the questions, and of course, well, the whole complete community of Fabric and AI users will be around. Last thing, well, don't hesitate to join the GitHub repo, where is all the information about the hackathon, the guidelines, how to submit, and everything. And remember that the next session is going to be about that. These are the QR codes in case somebody wants to take a screenshot. Well, that's where you can do it. And what is missing now is in 1 week we will have a session about how to submit your project, and then well you will have the real submission deadline in November 3, and then we will evaluate all of those and have the final results. I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you, Virginia, because the presentation was pretty neat. Well, I hope this was good for everyone. So see you around.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for joining, and thanks again to our speakers. This session is a part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one.